TPR or TPRS is based on the interactional view of language because learning occurs between the teacher and students or among students. Therefore, students actively participate in authentic communication as they create or respond to the storytelling. When it comes to the understanding of rules and patterns, grammar is taught implicitly, not in a traditional way by this method. Instead, students learn grammar through the repetition of grammatical structures and features in stories or pop-up explanations, which include questions about a certain grammatical feature from the story. By answering these questions, students practice rules and patterns, but this is not the central part of the method. Students are exposed to oral input through storytelling and other activities, so the method utilizes the process called comprehending oral input. Therefore, learners improve listening skills due to their exposure to oral input. Teachers ask many questions during the storytelling or when they teach vocabulary, and students answer those questions. TPRS supports the creation of original utterances as learners engage in storytelling activities, retell stories, or create own stories. They can also participate in other language tasks. Speaking also leads to interaction between the students and the teacher or among themselves. So the method encourages interaction with others in the target language. Relating to speaking, learners express their own ideas, thoughts, and feelings. The lecture in the video also included reading when students read different story. Reading is practiced by the TPRS method. The syllabus of this method is organized around vocabulary. It includes vocabulary. Before introducing a new story, the teacher provides new words that will occur in the story. It can also utilize structural or grammatical patterns, even though the teacher doesn't solely focus on grammar explanations. Lectures often include topics that provide context for learning. Students engage in various communicative situations such as storytelling activities and interactions. This also relates to the language tasks, which include retelling the story, asking and answering questions, role plays, and own storytelling. Another central part or component of the syllabus are stories through which language is taught. They may also use comments within the storytelling or language tasks. In the video, students physically practice the new vocabulary by acting out the words. Used materials are the following: realia or physical objects, teacher-prepared materials or handouts, pedagogically prepared oral texts or written texts. Learners in the TPRS assume these roles. They respond to the teacher's questions. They can also respond to the teacher's comments, interpret oral or written input, practice linguistic patterns, and communicate ideas and feelings in the language. On the other hand, the teacher's roles are different. The teacher provides comprehensible input in the language, tells stories, gives commands, teaches subject matter in the language, helps learners manage their own learning, provides authentic oral or written texts, and provides opportunities for interaction in the target language. The teacher can analyze learners' needs by checking their vocabulary progress, and if they are not performing the way the teacher intended, then the class translates the story or the practice vocabulary more. Content and performance standards. Content standards. So the TPRS heavily relies on storytelling to the language, so the teacher should be able to create interesting and engaging stories serving the purpose of teaching language. TPRS also focuses on vocabulary, and it should integrate useful everyday items that will be practical for learners in real life. Moreover, another important aspect of the method encourages the use of comprehensible input that learners will understand despite the incomplete proficiency of the target language. It can be accompanied by gestures, facial expressions, visuals, and repetitions. Content standards may also include the teaching of grammar naturally as a part of storytelling and the selection or creation of reading materials. The standards should pay attention to opportunities for engagement, such as the storytelling, retells, personalized stories, and reading activities. Performance standards, learners storytelling, learners' storytelling comprehension is assessed within the performance standards. It focuses on their comprehension of the main ideas, supporting details, characters, events, and the plot. Students are also able to retell the stories, while performance standards look for their summarizing skills. Moreover, learners create own stories, and their abilities to create the main idea, supporting details, characters, and the plot is also assessed. The performance standards include the learners' reading abilities, language production, either written or oral, and vocabulary acquisition and retention. The teaching method has benefits because learners benefit from comprehensible input that improves their listening skills and boosts vocabulary. As the teacher repeats new words and phrases, they can easily acquire them. The repetition is accompanied by gestures, body language, voice inflection, and visual imagery. These practices make input more comprehensible, and students lose anxiety, which results in natural acquisition. Moreover, the method is engaging and students were having fun during the lecture. Everyone was paying attention, acting out the words, and actively participating during the lecture because the teacher asked questions throughout the storytelling. When learners have fun and find learning interesting, they are more likely to remember words and phrases. Students can practice speaking, listening, writing, and reading as a part of a lecture, which helps them acquire more proficiency in language use, as all those parts are important in learning language. The teacher also allowed students to train their imagination because they had to create a story from the chosen words. The method has disadvantages as well because it is mostly suitable for beginners. Teaching requires lots of creativity from the teacher, and not every teacher can perform this method effectively. The method can be used to teach complex, the method cannot be used to teach complex issues in language, and it also doesn't pay much attention to grammar, even though grammar is taught implicitly. It may create repetitions, and while acting out the words, some students may be embarrassed, and they might not want to participate. The method used listening, speaking, writing, and reading aspects of language use and learning. However, listening and speaking, reading dominated more than writing. The TPRS focuses on listening comprehension, vocabulary, pronunciation, consistency, and a bit of grammar, even though the method doesn't explicitly teach grammar. Learning outcomes from this method are the following. Learners master the vocabulary during the lecture and they are expected to remember it. Relating to this is good pronunciation. Students are also expected to actively engage in language tasks and communication, which in turn improves the language proficiency and fluency despite their beginner skills. Their listening skills will also be improved as they need to pay attention to the teacher's stories that are immediately accompanied by questions. They need to listen to answer questions, and TPRS utilizes reading, which should also improve learners' skills. The video doesn't concern culture, but TPRS can be thought in a way that engages cultural norms, references, practices, and stories. The teacher can tell stories with cultural content or lead discussions that deal with cultural topics. Materials that are used can also include culture, as students hear authentic language, including different dialects or accents. Besides the oral materials, students work with written input that can also include culture. The method can be used to teach beginners as a way to enrich the class. In my point of view, learning vocabulary before storytelling is engaging and beneficial, even for those students who rarely want to learn new words, because they are directly exposed to new vocabulary and its repetition. They will surely acquire new lexical items. I would utilize this teaching method when I would want to when I would want my students to practice listening, reading, speaking, and writing, because it is a great method to acquire language as naturally as possible without neglecting other language skills.